What's up with that?
Well, if you're a believer in God, if you're a Christian, as many tens of millions in America are, you could see you as poking fun at their religion.
Not at all. How many people thank God every time they say thank God? I don't get offended. Do I?
But you must be aware that a lot of people in America would potentially find that offensive.
What, because I'm saying I don't believe in God?
Yeah, because you're kind of mocking them, you know.
No, I'm not. I'm not mocking them. People's beliefs aren't my concern at all. I certainly don't differentiate between religions either. I look at all religions the same. Unlike religious people, I look at all religions equally.
You were religious till you were about 8 years old, is that right?
Yeah, I was brought up a Christian, yeah.
And what happened to change your mind then?
I used to go to Sunday school all the time. I believed in... Well, you got to realise that when you're a working class kid, I came from a very poor working class background. My dad was a labourer, my mum was a housewife. I lived in a poor estate over here, like the projects. Right? And to a working class mum who, her hope isn't that you become a doctor or a lawyer or an international comedian, it's that you don't die in a barroom fight. And they think the best way to do that is to take on Christian values, which preach immorality, but they haven't got the monopoly on good. This is my point. I'm not a Christian, but I live my life in a good way. And some people say, well, who says what's good is? Well, do you know what? I do. I'm good to people because it's the way I want to be treated. And I don't believe I'll be rewarded in heaven, but I do believe...
What do you think will happen to you?
I'll be rewarded now.
But when you die, what do you think happens?
People who liked me or remember me.
Are you a spiritual person, do you think?
Well, not in that sense, but I get a funny feeling when I see a friend or a mountain or an animal. It fills me with joy. My first love is science and nature, but it's explainable. And just because I don't think that I'm going to go to heaven, I don't think my life's worthless. I don't think...
It's not really that. I always think with atheists, because I do believe, and I was brought up a Catholic and remain so.
Sure.
But, you know, I think everyone's entitled to their own beliefs,
absolutely,
whatever they may be. The problem for atheists, it must be so doom and gloom. When you get to like 70, 80 to think, well, hang on, that's it.
Oh, of course.
That's the end of everything.
That's right, yeah.
So you must fear death 10 times more than Christians, don't you?
Why? I don't believe there's anything after.
Because it's the end.
But you're saying you believe because the alternative is too terrible.
That's not why I believe, but certainly it's a very comforting thought to think that I don't think it all ends in the box under the ground.
But I can't help what I believe any more than you can. And it's up to you what you believe in. You know, and this thing about not believing in God, there are 2,780 odd gods. And so if you're a Christian, you believe in one of them and you don't believe in all the others. I think religion's greatest trick wasn't convincing some people that there was a God who was all-powerful. It was convincing everyone else that you couldn't ridicule that idea. It's when you get them. I think there'd be more atheists and less faithful if you weren't allowed to teach anything, you weren't allowed to mention any gods or any beliefs or atheism, right, until they were 20. I think we'd see a different pattern. The human brain, when it's young, is a sponge. It has to be. It has to take in all the information. It has to trust its parents, its elders, to survive. Without question, don't touch the fire. Why not? Don't go near don't go near the wolf. Don't touch that spider with a red bit. Don't touch that. Why not? Just don't. There is a God. What? There is a God. And if you're bad, you go to hell. Okay? And if that's constantly confirmed, like all the other things, wolves eat you, black widows kill you, fires burn you, if it's given that same level of credence and truth, you're never going to get over it. It's going to be a lot harder to undo that. I think the myths came up, maybe, you know, often as a stopgap to knowledge until we find out more. You know, the earth is flat. No, we've proved now. Okay, the earth's not flat. We were wrong. Okay. But that's not personal. You don't take that personally. It doesn't affect you. It doesn't affect your afterlife, you know? And so they often want to hold on to that, right? But only because of the way they've been conditioned. We know it's fun to tell children there's a Santa Claus and there's fairies at the bottom of the garden and all these cute things. It's cute till they're 7 or 8. If they're 34, it's a bit embarrassing socially. This is my son. What's he doing? He's looking for fairies. Is he? Okay, we better leave. If you're born in India, you're probably a Hindu. If you're born in America, you're probably a Christian. If you're born in Pakistan, you're probably a Muslim. That's a coincidence, isn't it? That you're always born into the right God. Always. Isn't that lucky? I was born under the right God. All those others are going to hell. But I was born into the right religion. I'm going to heaven. It's strange that we hold on to these sort of medieval beliefs. You know, where did the universe come from? God made it. Which doesn't solve the problem for me. Because we straight away say, well, who made God? And if they say, well, he's always been around, well, let's just say the universe has then. Let's just cut out the middleman. It saves time. We're all born atheist, you know, and then that gets changed or enhanced. I mean, there shouldn't even be a word for atheism. It shouldn't exist. Shouldn't need it. There's not a word for not believing in fairies, you know? And if people didn't keep inventing these weird, impossible deities, we wouldn't have to go around denying them. It's a matter of degrees. If you go around feeling good because whatever life throws at you, it'll all be okay in heaven, that's great. Doesn't affect anyone. Fine. If you pray that you'll do well at work and then you try hard and do well at work and you believe it was the praying, fine. You know, we know it wasn't. We know the praying was irrelevant. We know praying without actually doing anything doesn't do anything. Praying and then working towards something. Praying to me is like making a list. That's all it does. It may even motivate you. It may even, you know, it's getting your thoughts clear. Thinking there's someone hearing you and changing stuff, that's something else. But again, it's still not harmful. But if you start doing crazy stuff because God's telling you to, that affects me. I've got to stop you there. And if someone goes around saying there is a God and bad people go to hell, fine, doesn't affect me. If they go around saying there is a God and bad people go to hell, I'm going to help God send them to hell by stoning them to death. Whoa, he doesn't need your help. He's all powerful. Chill out. God's got this one. I think it's very important you challenge your own beliefs. I mean that's what science does, really. It doesn't constantly try and prove itself right. It follows the evidence, whatever that is. In fact, it tries to prove itself wrong. It doesn't sulk. When science thinks something and then it discovers it was wrong, it doesn't sulk because it found that out too. It's the question I often get, that people say, well, you're an atheist, you know, you're closed-minded. Well, no, I'm not. You know, that's a strange thing to say. I think the opposite is true. I'm going to always follow the evidence, whatever that is. And they say things like, if someone proved to you God existed, would you believe? Well, of course I would, by definition. In fact, it would be the greatest scientific discovery of all time. Scientists would celebrate. They'd run round. At the moment, we have no evidence for the existence of any God or anything supernatural. Never have. Possibly never will. But who knows? We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. When someone puts forward a jar of God, we test it for its godliness. And if we find there's anything godly in it, we'll write it down. I get asked questions like, you know, well, what do you think it feels like when you're dead? And I always say, well, what did it feel like for the billions of years before you were born? Like that. And there's also this strange thing that I get from faithful people. Why don't you believe in God? Well, that's a very strange question. Why don't you believe in God? Well, you came up with it. Why would I? As to saying I don't know, well, if you're agnostic about God in all his glory and in all his impossibility, you've got to be the same about Santa. You have got to say, I don't know. I want to say to an agnostic, what's your best guess then? Go on, have a punt. In fact, I don't ask agnostic. I don't say to agnostics, is there a God? I say, do you believe in God? Now, you can't say I don't know to that question, because if you say I don't know, you're an idiot. What you don't know if you believe or not. And I had this discussion with someone on Twitter, actually, and he said, well, that's not true, because I can ask you, am I wearing a red jumper? And you have no way of informing your guess. And that's true. But now ask me if you're wearing a red jumper that created the universe. Now I can have a little guess. No. No, you are not. It's mental. If you throw a load of coins on the floor, no one arrangement is more amazing than another. And it's sort of like they work backwards. Because this is what happened, this is what we think is perfection. So we try and... We can't get around the fact that it's crazy, we've got two eyes. That's exactly where I put them. You know, these are brilliant. This is exactly... If I was making a person, I'd make it just like me. And it's hard not to think there was a will to it. But there wasn't.
Because anyone who follows you on Twitter, and you have a huge following, they'll know that you are a pathological atheist, and therefore the thought of death is very final for you. For me, as a good Irish Catholic boy, it's the start of something new and glorious. For you, that's it.
For me, it's the end of something glorious, so I have to pack it all in. But, you know, I'm not depressed about it. I don't want to die any more than anyone else. And I think there's this strange myth that atheists have nothing to live for. It's the opposite. We have nothing to die for.
You have more to live for.
We have everything to live for.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would imagine you have a more focused attention to life because you think it ends when you die.
I think it's precious. I think it's beautiful. I think the world is amazing. I love people, animals, art, every hobby. I can't believe my luck that I'm alive for these 70 or 80 years. Might be less. Wait, you know, I'm not long for this world. My nan used to say that. She lived till 83. I think it was 40 years ago going, I'm not long for this world.
What are you said the things you like. What are the things that really annoy you?
Only two things really, really make my blood boil, I suppose. I suppose in general, as I get older, injustice. Injustice quietly makes my blood boil. Either personal, social, political, you know, personal. I suppose the two main categories are religious intolerance, this arrogance that you think, you know, arguing over whose God is right sort of gets me down a little bit, you know. And I've got no problem with spirituality. I really haven't. You know, that's another myth. And I always try and make the difference clear between spirituality and religion. One is a very personal feeling, a journey, a hope, or whatever, a need, you know, a joy. And the other is an organised body that uses that for power and corruption in many cases. In many cases. And you know, I don't have either, but I suppose I think that when it affects me, that's when I have a say in it. And religion affects me. Religion's very real. Spirituality, it doesn't really affect me.
See, I find it, there's an irony, isn't it, when the people that attack you on Twitter for challenging them about their religious beliefs, they show this total disrespect to you for what is your belief. Your belief is you're an atheist and you just don't happen to believe in a deity or a god. I can respect that completely whilst choosing myself to have a different belief.
Of course, of course. And
you get very intense on Twitter. I mean, you get into proper battles with people.
Yeah.
Why do you take it so?
But it
so
looks like that. I was at home, I'm smiling.
Are you always?
I've got what? When someone's arguing with me that the Earth is 5,000 years old, yes, I'm smiling. Yeah, of course I'm smiling. You know, the fundamentalist view of the the creation of the Earth is rather like an episode of the Flintstones. So I have to laugh at those sort of things.
How does your atheism, which you're passionate about, how does that play with your American audience, given that so many people in America are God-fearing people and probably take exception to it?
Well, they shouldn't. We talked about this last time. Why should they take offence that I don't believe in their God or any other God? And I'd say to them, tell me the reasons why you don't believe in all the other gods, and that's the reason I don't believe in yours. And I've got nothing against people believing in God at all, in fact, if it did make you a kinder person, if you only did good things in his name, then great, but there's the rub. It's when I see some of these religious fundamentalists saying that they've told their 5-year-old children that if they turn out gay, they will burn in hell. That, to me, is child abuse. That's nothing to do with religion or spirituality. That's child abuse. So that's why I'm passionate when it comes to that.
What do you think of the Republican nomination race, given that some of the candidates clearly position themselves quite deliberately to say anti-gay marriage, all that kind of thing, based on their religious beliefs?
Well, we're back to offence, aren't we? Just because they're offended by someone being gay, it doesn't mean they're right. It's a strange thing that comes out of being gay is a choice. No, being gay isn't a choice. I want to go, well, go, you try it then. If it's a choice, have a go. See how much you like it,
As someone who's come to America and been the personification of the kind of classic old American dream of, they take anybody from anywhere and anyone can make it big here. Yeah. They don't really care what else you've done anywhere else. It's like...
I came fat with terrible teeth.
You was a chubby loser.
Yeah.
And now look at you.
British or huddled masses.
Exactly.
Yeah. Look at him, he's huddled. But no, America's fantastic. It is the land of opportunity. And there's bits of both cultures that I love and hate. And the wonderful thing about being between England and America, they are both land of freedom, and criticise them all you want, but know that you're in a place that allows you to criticise it, and that's lucky, and that's great, and that should be cherished. And freedom of speech for me is one of the most important things that discovered, and I'd fight for the right of it. And even though I don't believe in God, and I don't believe, unlike most religions, I treat all religions the same. I think they're all wrong, not morally wrong, but I don't think there is or could be a God. But if someone said, we're banning religion, I'd march to not have it banned, because it's your right to believe what you want, and it's your right to be wrong, and I'll fight for that right.
There are some people who say that to explain existence, to explain life, to explain that we are, as they would put it, rather demeaningly, a bundle of chemicals, somehow makes life not worth living. Why indeed?
I don't understand it.
No. I mean, it's wonderful, even if you can explain it. It's even more wonderful if you can explain it.
There's a magic there. There's a magic to consciousness, introspection, free will.
And the fact that you can say that it's done by nerve impulses speeding around the brain doesn't diminish it in any way.
No, of
it's
course
still
not.
wonderful.
Of course not.
Actually, I think it's more wonderful.
I think it is, because it's amazing.
Yes.
I mean, magic does it for you. Magic goes, it's magic.
It's amazing that this conscious being, this thinking being that is me, and that thinking being that is you, is actually produced by millions of nerve impulses whizzing around inside our brain. I mean, that is a magical thought.
It's great, isn't it? We're in each other's dream.
Yes.
And even if free will is an illusion, it makes no difference. It makes no difference to us.
I feel as though I have free will, even if I don't.
Of course. And I'd say determinism is sound, but it's when they start making these leaps that then we can't be responsible for our own actions. Well, you've still got to lock someone up if they're going around murdering people to protect the innocent.
Yes. It wasn't me did the murder, my lad, it was my neurons.
Of course.
My genes.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Well, there's obviously a little bit of that creeping into everything, responsibility, being adult about things. But yeah, it doesn't change a thing. I feel that I make my own choices. and if I don't, I certainly feel like I'm choosing. Yeah, it's not even worth worrying about. But yeah, it's this thing that takes the art out of something, or the humanity, or the beauty. Why? Why does it? It's strange, and the way they think it's all too good, it's all too perfect. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Why?
Yes.
Why? You haven't seen the process, you know. There's a wonderful thing about Douglas Adams that goes against the intelligent design theory. It's a puddle.
Oh, the puddle, yes.
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, you tell the story. I mean,
Well, it's just that a puddle is pondering, and it says, I must have been designed because I fit this hole perfectly.
Yes.
Which is just beautiful. What a
Yes.
beautiful metaphor.
Yes.
For trying to explain evolution and everything. I also, it's funny as well because they move the goalposts. You cannot win an argument with someone who believes in God. Certainly, who believes in an interventionist God. It's impossible. Well, you've won in the sense that you've tried your best and you think you're right, and they're deluded, but they go away, you know, just as strong. You know I mean, their best argument, ironically, is that it's just faith.
Pretty pathetic, really, isn't it?
Well, it is pathetic, but they mustn't ever engage in logic. You know, it's like top trumps. They mustn't pick logic on their cards. They've got to go faith 100%, and then you go, yeah, sorry, you win. You know, that's the only way they're going to win this top trumps. They've got to keep away. Some embrace science. Some say God started the Big Bang. He invented the Big Bang, and he let it all happen. It was programmed, but now he's not an interventionist God. I say, well, so you believe in evolution? Yeah, but he did all that. Fine. But then he gave man free will. So then it's not his fault anymore. It's like there's evil, there's bad. He had to go with the flood, but he thought, I've tried once. Let him get on with it. I'm not, no. I'll be in the study, forget it. You know. And then I say, well, why do you pray then? Because it makes me feel good. So they sort of know. I think they sort of know, but they don't want to know. No, I'm just being honest, you know. I mean, I can't see there could be a God, you know. I mean, spirituality and religion are two different things, don't forget, you know. I can't make myself believe something I don't believe. I wish there was a God, you know, and I wish he was all the things people said he was, all powerful and kind and all that. But by definition, the impossibility is overwhelming to me. And then there's religions which use that truth for their own personal gain, and that's something else, and that's abhorrent and disgusting. Religious fascism is the only thing apart from animal cruelty that gets my blood boiling. But people believing in God doesn't worry me at all. You know, I live by Christian values, I suppose. You know, I live by, or any religious values that preaches forgiveness and, you know, do as you would be done by, and, you know, I just do it for different reasons. I do it because I think this is my only time on earth, and I should enjoy it and be part of it and celebrate it and be nice to everyone, because we're animals who need to be loved and lead a decent life. If you believe in God and that gets you through and it makes you a nicer person, then so be it. But I don't believe. And I feel sometimes that atheists, and I am atheist, not agnostic. One of the few things I'm sure of in life. I think they get a bad press that we take the art out of beauty and the world, which is not true. The fact that, you know, the Earth is 4.6 billion years old, and you know there are 4 million species of animal, and they've evolved by accident, is I think more beautiful.
Ricky Gervais has never been one to shy away from controversy, especially when it comes to religion. Over the years, the British comedian, writer, and outspoken atheist has made a habit of poking fun at faith, challenging dogma, and questioning why religion still gets a free pass in modern society. It's undeniable that at this point he has cemented himself as one of pop culture's most prominent skeptics. Even more importantly, as you've seen, ladies and gentlemen, his critiques of religion aren't just for shock value, man. They stem from a deep-seated skepticism, a love of science, and a frustration with what he sees as the absurdities of faith. So how did Gervais become the go-to guy for religious takedowns in comedy? And why do his arguments usually strike such a chord with some while simultaneously infuriating others? Let's break it down, ladies and gentlemen. So, from the top, Gervais wasn't always one of the main poster boys for atheism. Like many Brits of his generation, he was raised in a nominally religious household and even attended a Church of England school. But unlike some who usually drift away from faith quietly, Gervais turned his departure into a comedic mission, man. In interviews, he's describing his younger self as a cultural Christian, someone who went through the motions without ever truly believing, which is actually something I can relate with in my later years in my life. And according to him, still by his teens, he had started questioning things, and by adulthood, he had fully embraced atheism. But it wasn't until his rise to fame that he began weaponizing his disbelief in his comedy. Now, the thing that separates Gervais from other famous atheists like Sam Harris, Christopher Hitchens, Richard Dawkins, Daniel Dennett, etc. The difference between these guys and Gervais is that the latter doesn't just reject religion, he openly ridicules it, man. And that's where the controversy usually kicks in. Most atheists are content to quietly not believe, but Gervais treats faith like a flawed premise in a bad sitcom, something that should be dissected, mocked, and ultimately dismissed. Actually, if there is one moment that perfectly encapsulates Gervais's approach to religion, it's his famous 2011 Golden Globes monologue. I know that it will go down as one of the most memorable monologues ever to most people, not just me. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, while hosting the awards show for the second time, he said, and I quote, "And I'd like to thank God for making me an atheist." The line, of course, got laughs, groans, and probably a few prayers for his soul, of course. But it also perfectly summed up his stance. Why credit an invisible deity for human achievements? And you could clearly tell that for Gervais, this wasn't just a joke. It was a direct challenge to the rationality of attributing real-world success to divine intervention. So yeah, I think that's all for today, ladies and gentlemen. I really hope that you've enjoyed watching the video as much as I did putting it together, man. I am really looking forward to seeing you in the video that I upload the day after tomorrow. So please make sure you join me. In the meantime, please stay safe, take care of yourself, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace, man.